Hey everybody, it's Noah back again for another thought bubble. Today is episode 19. We're almost to the big 20, which is great. Pretty cool, not gonna lie. As you might notice if you watched the previous episode, my room looks the same, and that's because I'm filming these back to back. And also if you watched the last one, you would also know that it is about 7 p.m. when I'm recording this, and I have not eaten dinner yet, and I am quite a hungry lad. So apologies if you hear my stomach rumble before this video, but after I filmed the first one, I went and grabbed a snack, got right, drank some water, and now we're here. So hopefully, I have regained enough to basically record one of these. Anyway, today I kind of wanted to talk about the idea of how much is enough, because I think I've mentioned kind of like this idea before in some of my previous videos where like you kind of chase. I think it was the video about chasing perfection, where it's like you want to chase like having the perfect scenario, the perfect day, the perfect like whatever, etc. You can kind of like name it, but I kind of put it in the context of like in space when you're looking at like a planet. Let's say we want to inhabit like a planet that's somewhere else in our solar system that we don't know anything about. Of how much do we have to explore it to really know that it's safe? And by that I mean, like, let's say we discover or know about 99.999% of the species on the planet. Is that considered like safe enough for us to be able to put humans on there? Because what if that, like, 0.0001% species, or like there's one species out there that like hunts humans, and like that's the risk. And I kind of wanted to expand on that point maybe a little bit, but kind of take it maybe in a more umbrella wide context of like how much is enough? Because I think a lot of times recently I've kind of caught myself chasing numbers, if that makes sense. Like, I think of course for this channel I never will, because this for me, as I've kind of explained a few times in the past, is more of like a video journal of sorts. And so like, well, you know, there's no like complaints if people watch it and empathize with it, which I think is like the main thing. But it's never been like a numbers game for me, if that makes sense. But there's definitely been other times in my life where it's like, um when I'm like collecting cards, or and I'm trying to like collect a set, how much of like the rare cards do I need to really feel like I have a majority of the set, or have collected enough for the set? Is it just my favorite ones? Is it um all of the rare cards? Is it hollows, non-hollow? You know what I'm saying? Like, how much of that is enough? And like, I think it really got to me, like, especially in like a when I went to my alumni luau recently, and you kind of hear a lot of stories from people, excuse me, and like you hear kind of all of these things that they do, and like all of the capital that they have in terms of money. And it's like, this is something that I want to chase in my life, of like trying to be successful, trying to work hard and all that stuff. But like, how much money is like too much money is like something that I've like thought about, because it's like a million, a billion. And I feel like I've sort of kind of fumbled around with this idea for a long time, because it's like I don't even know if there's like ever a limit where like I feel like you would be okay. I think I don't know if it's just because it's like a competitive drive in me, just to like keep pushing and like try and be the best that I can and keep pushing boundaries and doing stuff like that. But like in the terms of like, let's say money, let's say like I work really hard over the next like 4 or 5 years, I gain a lot of capital, and let's say I have like 100 grand or something like that in like my savings account. Is that like really enough? Because I feel like a lot of times when you get that, then it's like, okay, what's the next goal? And like you keep moving those goalposts, and like I feel like you end up in a state of like just constantly chasing, and like you never really take the time to just like sit back and look at all the stuff that you did just to get to that point. And I feel like that it like loses value of like the whole point of what you're doing. It is like to feel fulfilled in your life. And I feel like if once you get to that point, if you don't actually like take the time to understand what you did and like be grateful and kind of value that moment, then you kind of just are stuck in this perpetual chase. You're like the hamster in the hamster wheel. The wheel's just going to keep on turning. You're not going to like move anywhere. You just kind of like, the wheel's going to go. But ultimately you feel stuck in the same place. And I feel like that's kind of how it works for like people who make money, where it's like once you have like 100,000, then it's like, okay, I want a million. Once you have a million, then it's like you want to be a multimillionaire, then a billionaire, then like whatever, like I feel like it's just such a infinite chase, and it feels so unfulfilling. And like I think the same thing goes for like in sports too, of like a lot of times for me at least, I haven't won that many awards. I'm not like outstanding in any of the sports that I do, but like in bowling, when I had like it was kind of like a for fun league ish with like a lot of when I was still in high school and I was still playing, but like they gave out a lot of trophies actually, and like the more that I won, the more that I felt really like unfulfilled when I had them, if that makes sense, because I was always like chasing like one more trophy, one more like best game of like the week, or like one more of this, one more of that, um an MVP, like stuff like that. Like I found that like I was constantly like trying to win, and like I think one, it made the trophies feel almost like insignificant, or like the achievements that I did insignificant, because it was kind of just like another step on the infinite staircase, if that makes sense. Like you kind of just like keep going, but also I think it also hurt a lot worse when like I fell short, because it like felt like not only did I not progress, but I actually went backwards. And so like it was like more and more like frustrating to lose. And then it's just kind of like it's not only just like the chase feels like forever, but it's also just like I feel like a lot of times when you don't meet your goal at that point, when you're stuck in the chase, that like you fall so far down when you don't actually like meet at least where you are right now, or like maintain where you are right now, and it just feels like catastrophe, you know what I'm saying? So I kind of thought about ways to get around it, and I feel like for some reason, or I feel like I've come to the conclusion of like for some reason we've kind of become like this number based culture, where like it's always about how much money do you have in a number, not about like what you've done with it, whether it's like, you built it through ethical means, or you brought it through like factories where you're using underpaid workers, like it's not about did you invest over time and build your capital, or did you steal it from somebody, like I feel like it's such a number based thing, and all that matters at the end of the day is just like how much money do you have. It doesn't matter how, it's just how much. Same thing goes, I think, for like social media, something like this, right? Where like I feel like a lot of people just chase numbers. It's about how many subscribers do you have, how many viewers do you have, how many like what is this, what is that, what's your click-through rate, whatever, etc., etc. Like you get stuck in like this, it's all like analytical, it's all data, but it's like, do people that actually listen to you and care about your videos, like do they actually like, are they actually like good people? Are you cultivating like a community that is healthy, like all these sorts of things? Is it because it's just not like purely how many people watch you, it's also like, I even if like a million people watch my videos, I still like, if you took out the monetary aspect of it, of course, but like if they were all just like bad people, I still would, and I like made a community of bad people, it was just like it just feels so bad, like regardless of like what number is on the screen at the end of the day. The same thing I think goes for like trophies, in a sense of like, yeah, someone could have like 43 trophies, but it's like if they're all for third place, then it doesn't feel like as valuable maybe as like someone who has like the same amount of trophies but they're all first. You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of how I view it in the trophy sense, and kind of like where I concluded, where I feel like instead of being such like a numbers based society where like you're constantly chasing the next number or trying to have like the biggest number of the crowd, I feel like it's so much more important to just chase value and values, if that makes sense. I don't know like if that's the right way to put it, but it's like instead of chasing in like the follower sense in terms of social media, where like you're chasing the highest followers, you should look to maybe like build a fan base or build a culture or community that like enforces good values, that's like, you want to have a community that's honest, that's like um what's it called, like empathetic, or whatever, like whatever value you want to imprint onto people, or you want to cultivate, like that's what should matter. It shouldn't matter like if it's 20 people or 100 people, or 100,000 people. Like the number shouldn't matter. Only thing that matters is the value of it, like what does it provide for both you and other people. And not to say that in like a transactional sense, but like, I think it's really important to not just look at the number, but also look at the what those numbers mean and look past that. I think in the trophy sense, right? Like the golds are worth the bronzes. Both are medals and both are definitely valuable. Don't get me wrong. Like those are insane. But also at the same time, it's like, one is definitely worth more than the other. I think the same thing can be said in the money case, right? As I was kind of explaining, like it's not just about how you got your number or how much wealth you have. It's also like how you earned it. Like, do you have, what if like someone made $300 million, right? Let's just say, for a hypothetical example, someone has $300 million. They earn their money through underpaid workers, child labor. They're forcing people to work, poor working conditions, always in drama, but use the legal system to get out of it type beat. You know what I'm saying? And compare that to someone who also has 300 million, but they were able to build a company of a lot of people who have done a lot of good in the world, who do a lot of community service, who like donate to charities and spends a lot of their wealth that they had, giving back to, let's just say, like underprivileged communities. I would definitely value the guy who has like fostered a healthy community a lot more than the guy who is like, just in it for himself and just to get the highest number. And I think the same thing that I just thought of too also applies to like your friend group. You know what I mean? I think a lot of times, especially in like middle school or high school, it kind of becomes like a superficial thing to be like the popular person and to have the most friends, to have the most connections. But at the end of the day, it's like if those people just like know of you but don't actually value you for who you are, do those friends even matter? Like do those connections even matter? And like it it just becomes such a numbers game of like, oh, the most popular person, but it's also at the same time like what kind of friendships do they make? Like is it just transactional? Like I'm only friends with you because you can do something with me, which I've talked about in the past, by the way. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that of like it's not just about however many friends you have. It's also about the quality of the friendship, the strength. Do you guys help out other people? Do you harm other people? Like those things matter. And I think like especially for me, I never was like the person I think with the biggest friend group. I think a lot of people knew of me and didn't know about me enough, especially. And part of it is sort of my fault because like I wasn't the most social person. Don't get me wrong. I definitely enjoy a night in more than I enjoy a night out. But like um I think that a lot of times, generally speaking, that especially in the friend case, and I guess just focusing on the friend case for now, like it becomes such a numbers game of how many people do you know, and rather like I would much rather have the friend group that I have now, which is like a tight, close knit group of like 8 to 10 people, rather than like a huge friend group of 100 people that like loosely know me and like I can trust. You know what I mean? Like I'd rather have that smaller friend group that is closer, tight knit, like who all push each other and like to be better and to be the best people that they can be, rather than just like a bunch of random people, that you're loosely connected to. So I guess today's kind of summary ish, I don't know, is that I feel like our society has become very much like a numbers game. It's kind of just become like who has the most of what, who has the most friends, who has the most money, stuff like this. And I feel like you lose so much of the value of like what it means, like the data behind the numbers, like it's not just about how many friends, it's about the quality of your friendships. It's not just about the money you make, it's also about how you made it. It's like, and not just about how many followers you have, it's also about what community do you make, like what kind of values do you foster and stuff like this. Like I feel like if we can push ourselves to be a bit more like critically thinking, if that makes sense, and like think beyond just like the numbers of who has the most things, then to wrap it up back in a bow. Like if you focus less on just like the pure number value and focus more on like what that number actually means and like the value of what that number means, then I think you kind of find I think hopefully that we can kind of push ourselves away from this like infinite carousel of like just like no amount is enough, and you kind of find really like this number is enough for me because of X, Y, and Z, because you feel fulfilled, like all of those values that you foster in your community, all the values that are in your friend group, and like how you make your money, like all of those things are more fulfilling than the number itself, I think, for sure. So generally, I at least I'm gonna try it and see if it works, of just like focusing more on the value of what things mean rather than just the pure number itself. And hopefully then I can I mean, I've been trying, and hopefully other people, maybe if you agree with me too, but hopefully we can kind of move away from this like just purely numbers, and just like focused on who has the bigger number, and focus more on like the values of things. So yeah, that's it for today. It has gotten quite dark. As you can see, I've been recording this video for, I don't know, I think like 15 minutes or so, 16 minutes. So it's gotten quite dark, but hopefully it's better for you dark mode viewers. If you're a light mode viewer, prayers. But hopefully you enjoyed. As per usual, like, subscribe, comment what you think of my take today. Do you think that it is better to be in a more value focused society rather than number one? Or maybe you think the other way. I don't know. I'd just like to hear ideas. So if you have any ideas or comments, put them in the comments below. If you want to see another video, you can click over here somewhere. I I I I just throw it in the corner. It's basically the playlist of all of my previous episodes. If you want to hear some of my other takes on basically anything and everything. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. Sorry, this one got kind of like not dark thematically, but dark visually. But hope you guys enjoyed, and hopefully I'll see you for another episode. See ya.